The campaign process, it took a life of its own.
Hey y'all, we are here, the exclusive interview pretty much. Been granted access to Councilwoman, and I want to make sure, and Santia Fox. I'm pretty sure you get Sanita a lot, don't you?
I do. Sort of. Yeah, I haven't gotten that in a while. Yeah, people are taking the time out to pronounce the syllables.
Which is great. But Councilwoman Santia Fox, she allowed me to come into her lovely home. This is a special edition Bankedoutt radio show. This is Bankedoutt Ballot, and she's a newly elected council person serving the population of Jonesboro.
Yeah.
One, thank you for allowing me to come into your space like this.
Absolutely.
It is an honor, and I don't, take it for granted. So, you're newly elected. You started January of this year.
January 5th.
Never held office before.
No. Prior to this, I was the chair of the Downtown Development Authority for the city of Jonesboro. Here.
Okay, so you did have some type of, political adjacent type of.
Yeah. I'm invested in the businesses, so I wanted a way to be able to help our businesses. So that was something that of interest, volunteering.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long did you do that?
For about almost 2 years.
Okay.
So I held the chair position for, I want to say less than 6 months. Our previous chair had resigned, and I was the vice chair at the time. So naturally, I took the chair position.
Was that an appointed position by due to like how the mayor can appoint positions? So
it was. Yes, it was an appointed position by mayor and council.
Okay. Was that your first introduction into I guess having others, I won't say the word validate, but others recognize who you are coming from, the public world to a public.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, at the time, it was just me volunteering and helping, a way to serve, right? Because I moved here, discovered this beautiful gem of a city, definitely invested here because I purchased my home here, and I wanted a way to be able to help. And that was just kind of my introduction. Okay, I wanted to serve. Yeah, volunteering, going to these city events. It just kind of felt like a calling of I want to do more.
So what got you into serving then, just the public in general?
I think that I've always served. Served in church. As a realtor and in an interior field. I think I've always had that as a job, serving families, helping them find beautiful spaces, designing spaces. So I think that my career has always led me into serving. It's to see somebody else's satisfaction or just happy or live vicariously through somebody else's and helping them to accomplish their dream. It's just like a high that's like no other.
Yeah. So you're on the development committee. You're starting to recognize and learn the integral parts of a city, a municipality. I tell people a city is like a business. It has all these different components to it, and they all have to, function in order to produce the desired outcome for the public. Why take on that initiative to run and want to be a problem solver for stuff that you saw?
Well, I saw because as a business owner myself, when you make decisions, when you have a board, you make decisions, you execute, and then you get results. I found very quickly in government that process is sort of the same, but it's a lot slower. And I'm a natural problem solver, so I just couldn't understand. I couldn't connect. Why is it taking so long to arrive at these final stages, or sometimes you never arrive at the final stages. There's years of conversation about the same topic or the same development or the same, and you never arrive, and so much has happened in between that you get lost, or the project get lost, or the law get lost. So I, naively enough, I felt like, okay, this is not that difficult. We have A, we have B, and we needed to equal C.
Yeah, that's how business goes.
That's how business goes, exactly. There's a need. We have identified that need. Let's now we have a solution.
Yeah.
Let's implement the solution.
Yeah.
Well, politics is not that quite.
No, it doesn't work that way. By any stretch of imagination.
So that's why I say naively enough.
Yeah.
You know, I came in like, okay, we have to fix that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So tell me about your campaign. One, just from a color scheme standpoint, I love the fact that you use the color orange in your campaign because it's nice and bright.
Yeah.
And it's different from I would say, the conservative approach that most people take with like the blues and the reds and the whites or something like, that seems conservative. I've seen other couple people use like a lime green or something like that, which definitely, in my mind, stood out. How was campaigning? Tell us about that journey.
So it's amazing that you said that because my campaign manager, Vincent, said the same thing. He was like, when I sent him my color options or choices, because he put that together for me, and I'm so grateful for the Watkins group. He immediately saw that I was different. I didn't quite fit the mold of red, white, and blue. So he wanted to capitalize off of that and was like, okay, these are interesting group of colors because, he works with plenty of candidates. So when I come along with orange as part of that color scheme, he leaned into it. The firm leaned into it, and I'm so grateful for that because they captured my personality. They captured the essence of who I was or who I am. And I wanted something. I wanted something outside of the norm. I didn't realize though that that's what I was doing was breaking the norm or breaking the mold that is already invisibly set for us. Yeah. So coming up, I think that was very important for me. What was really important was to showcase who I am, and because again, no name person, people don't know me. Just really. I've been so silent. To be honest with you, up until I started running, I really wasn't even following politics in that depth,
Yeah, I get it.
But when it started doing my research and then identifying just pocket holes or disconnects, and so that calling was there. But to answer your question, it was important to capture the essence of who I am, just being different. But I couldn't tell you what different was. I just knew that it wasn't what I saw already out there.
Yeah. I definitely say it was a great move because one, the brightness of the color, but then also it transcends and it plays on the part of the last name too, because Fox. Yeah. And anytime people see a Fox, it's more likely in the orange type of color or manner, or like a red orange or something like that, or orange red, however you want to call it. So I definitely saw that was a great move. So you go, you get elected. And I like to, I want to focus just a little bit on like turnout, expectations were they met, and then overall people who participate in the process of voting versus how many constituents are actually eligible to vote.
That's a great question. The campaign process, it took a life of its own. It became more than just a campaign. It became a movement for me. Because I ran. You don't go to class. I didn't take any classes. You don't know what to prepare for while you're on that journey. It truly is a campaign journey because developments are happening on a regular basis. And then depending on those developments, then you have to make decisions. And then depending on those decisions, then you have to make more decisions or you have to pivot, you have to navigate, you have to go through. So I didn't know anyone. I wrote an article recently. This is a nonpartisan city. So, I was intentionally wanting to get to know the Democratic Party, wanting to get to know different people, wanting to although they didn't have an influence, I felt like, in our area, but they different parties and organizations are still present because the city of Jonesboro is the county seat, and we all the offices are here naturally. So just kind of getting to know different people, getting to know different organizations, getting to know, and then I kind of saw a theme, right? A theme was developing, and I think I was trying to find myself in that process and identify what type of candidate I want to be or who I am. And that kind of became a little rough because I had to evaluate my values and my,
No, I definitely get that.
Yeah, I had to evaluate my values and make sure whether or not it aligned. And that's where the campaign began to take a different turn because I had to stand on what I felt like, what I believed in, and what my values are. And oftentimes, and many of us share the same values and the ethics and all of that. And sometimes we don't, and it's okay. And I realized that in this process, it was okay to agree, to disagree, but for other people, it was not okay to agree to disagree. You know what I mean?
No,
yeah, so I respected the fact, like, hey, it's okay. What you believe and what you stand on, that's you. For me, in my house, this is, and during the campaign, it was very important that I stayed true to that. And I had to make some decisions along the way to make sure that I remembered the why of why I was running. And that it did get a little difficult because oftentimes candidates get endorsements or, you have an organization that wants to back you because, again, those alignments align. What I didn't realize is that you do have to make sure that those values do align with your values because you are making a pact, you are making a commitment. You're saying that you support one another. But what happens when that alignment sometimes have to take a different route? Do the organization or do the person get upset, and then you're echoing those alignments as well. And I wanted to make sure that I was always echoing the constituent voices, the people who actually lived here, who work here on a day-to-day basis, where the policies that we put in place affects them directly. I wanted to make sure that their voices, I wasn't exchanging endorsement voices for theirs. Yeah.
And this actually, ties into your, is it a newsletter?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the Jonesboro Bridge.
Yeah, so I'm like, you took it upon yourself to create a vehicle where information can be disseminated for the betterment of people at your own expense.
I did.
As opposed to, other people could do similar things but have not. You took it a step further. So that to me shows me the commitment that you have to making people's lives better, as opposed to just being in a system where you regurgitate what other people say and that the community is tired of hearing the same old, and then that's why they don't want to, participate in elections. I know historically elections, local elections have like low turnout rates. How was your election? Because I know that y'all all got elected at the same time.
Yeah.
Because everybody's at large.
At large.
So picking the top, three candidates, and there were, I think, 7 of y'all on the ballot.
Yes, I believe it was 7. I was actually surprised at the number of people that were on the ballot. That made it a little challenging, but I still yet held the confidence. The turnout, so the numbers, I was so proud of me and my team and the numbers that we received because every single one of those votes were authentic. They didn't have to be, there's this thing called knock and drag where you're literally driving people to the polls. And that's, of course, that's necessary. Everything has its place. That strategy has its place. But I didn't have to use that strategy. In my campaign, every vote that I received was, I put myself out there in a way where I wanted people to get to know me. And I spent a lot of time door knocking. And I remember my campaign managers, they used to get upset. Well, not upset, but like, okay, how much time are you spending out there, door knocking or talking? And I'm like, each door that I knock on and I'm able to have a conversation with, the conversation is at least about 30 to 45 minutes, you know, which that leaves you not being able to cover a lot of ground. But it was important for me to take my time with the residents because, again, I have no name recognition. People don't know. I'm just another resident just like them. I'm just another business owner just like them. And I wanted them to get to know me and understand what value I brought to the city. So
I think stuff like that is more impactful.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you're building the name, so why not build a name through the grassroots movement?
Yeah, exactly.
Where it's more impactful, and as you're building, the momentum is catching on because now those residents you connected with by having 30, 40-minute conversations, they have a sense of who you are to a certain degree. So therefore, they start talking to other people. So now your name is more receptive when it's heard. So I get it. You know what I'm saying? It's a wonderful strategy to employ.
And it was amazing because I couldn't even get to everyone. But the doors that I did get to, they had already heard about me before I came to the door.
That's the whole point. That's what you did. You set up momentum for you to see it as you're in the process of creating it. So, which, you know, a lot of people, you know, you can't knock the connection. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know if I told you, my background is in business with a concentration in marketing. So I understand the entire approach that was taken. That's why I can see stuff in the campaign and I was like, okay, this made sense, this made sense, this made sense. But a lot of people take for granted, still to this day, word of mouth is the best form of advertisement. The only condition is that you can't control when people are going to talk about it, talk about you, or talk about the product, service, whatever the case may be. But when you build momentum like that, you create this sense of synergy along the way.
I love that word, synergy.
Yeah. That's what you create.
Yeah.
And to create that is absolutely hard to do. But once you do create it, it's very impactful, as you saw. And if you ever kill it, it's hard. It's twice as hard to create again.
I don't think you can create it again, or you have to have a really. You have to have a team that's specialized. I mean, it's a reset. Yeah, it's a reset and start over. And I'm grateful to the residents too because some of them listen. By the time I left the door, they had so many great questions and hard questions. And one of them was like, okay, well, what are you going to do different? You know, that was like kind of like the main thing. And then the other questions that I received at the door too was questioning the government authority that we have in place now, you know, and just how are you going to break that norm or, you know, oftentimes when you vote for a person, right, you take a chance, right? I used to hear that this election is the most important election. And it's just like, okay, I hear that every election. But now that I'm on this side of the table, I do realize that it is true. Every election is important because especially if you're taking a chance on a new candidate or there is already a candidate in office and they've had some time underneath their belt, you know, when you're taking a chance on a candidate, you don't know what decisions that candidate is going to make. You're taking a chance on that candidate. That candidate we have like this whole story that we're telling you and that we're saying, hey, these are what we're standing on. This is what we're going to deliver. And then when we get in office, sometimes that viewpoint or that goal changes.
I'm glad you brought that up. So we can get to some nuts and bolts of these fantastic questions. So from the role and responsibility of a councilwoman, right? Legislative versus executive. Many residents confuse the roles of a mayor and the city council. How do you describe the difference between the mayor's executive role and your legislative role as a councilwoman?
So it's important to understand, like we have a charter. And in the way that our form of government is, it's a strong mayor form of government. So the mayor handles the day-to-day decisions of the city. However, the mayor cannot make any major decisions, change policy without council. So this is where council come into place, where we evaluate our ordinances, we evaluate the laws or rules, and then as a governing body together, we vote and make those changes or keep them the same. Case in point, one of the council members brought up the making marijuana, for example, legal if you possess a certain ounce. We were one of the surrounding cities, or the only city in the city. The Clayton County had one law about that. We had a different law about that, and we kind of wanted to make that match because we're about 2.5 square miles. So if you go into a different block, and then you possess that same ounce, there can be a conflict here. So that's the difference. So the mayor handles the day-to-day. The mayor handles the hiring and the firing of staff, oversees our budget. The mayor presents a budget to us, and then as a governing body, we vote. We have conversations, we agree or disagree, or we implement the changes that needs to be made, and then those changes are carried out.
So besides the job description, and I'm talking about being a councilwoman, what does the day-to-day workload look like, and how much of this role is research, committee work, and direct constituent customer service?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, it's definitely a lot more intel than that is seen. It's more than just...
There's a lot behind the scenes.
Yeah, there's a lot behind the scenes stuff. It's definitely more than just what you see on a council seat for about 3 hours a meeting twice a week. There's the phone calls to and from constituents. There's constituents who may... One of the roles is speaking up for the voiceless, right? It's not that they don't have a voice; it's that they don't feel comfortable for that voice to maybe publicized. So they like to stay behind the scenes. So a lot of that is having conversations with the residents, and implementing and helping them to understand what we already have in place, and especially like if they're wanting to make a change, or they're receiving services or used to receive services and they're no longer receiving that. What does that look like and why? The other part of it too is reviewing policies that may be presented to us beforehand while we are on the council, or variances, or business applications, or etc. before council. So if someone is wanting to do business, for example, in the city of Jonesboro, and the area, the zoning may not fit that, then we have to review that. So doing research on the business, doing research on the area, talking to the residents to make sure that they want that business there, because we're the ones that's going to have to see the effects of that, whether it's a benefit or effect, or the lack thereof too, right? Reaching out to organization or businesses and say, hey, our community needs this, we don't have this. So that's part of that job load too. So a lot of it is handled behind the scenes, and it takes so much time. There's different steps in that process, and just to get to step 2, sometimes it may take years to work out step 1. And that's the difference between business and government. And it's just like, wow, that's the part where I kind of struggle in a little bit, because I'm like, why does things take so long to to come to fruition?
Because the system's already set up in place that you're not even aware of.
Yeah, exactly.
That exist, and then now you're put into that particular spot. And from my understanding, it's not like y'all get quote unquote training. Training happens like on the job.
It really does. It really does.
That, you know what I'm saying? There's state meetings of like how to counsel and govern and stuff like that, but that's a broad stroke.
It is. It is.
For every municipality, there's different nuances and problems that exist, and different way to govern. It's like you said, how it seems like the mayor's role is more it's more hands-on in this approach, as opposed to other municipalities I've seen where the city manager is more of the day-to-day.
It's the day-to-day. Yeah, that is, that's a great point that you bring up, and that's one that there's been conversations of possibly changing that, because you're right, the city manager in other municipalities have more hands-on on the day-to-day, but in this case it is the mayor. You know what I mean? And that can possess challenges too, because then what happens when we do have a city manager? Do those roles sometimes conflict? The relationship there has to be a great relationship. If not, then you're going to see the problems will spill into the community.
Yeah, definitely. I understand that. I wanted to skip around and stuff. I like
Absolutely.
doing skipping around and stuff like that. So participation gap, you noted that while thousands are impacted, only a handful of residents typically attend meetings.
Mm-hmm.
What is the biggest cost to the community when residents remain disengaged?
That is a problem that I'm still trying to fix, and I think that's part of where the Jonesboro Bridge, my newsletter, was birthed. Is a way to be able to get information to people that do not come to the meetings. Because even when you're coming to the meetings, right, sometimes these meetings last 3 to 4 hours. And sometimes one conversation, we can spend an hour on that conversation. There's so many words and opinions and ideas exchanged in that time frame where you will get lost in the original thought of the conversation. So I wanted to find a way to be able to bridge that gap. Because that's part of the bridge, is bridging the gap with communication between government and resident. And that is specifically to connect to those who are involved, and most importantly to those who are not involved. Being able to bring it right to their mailbox, whether it's email or their mailbox at the front door, and helping them to understand, here, this is what's happening, this is where we are. And if you have an opinion on this, then I need to know that so that I can bring that back to on the dais the next time we have a meeting.
I definitely love it. I saw where you reinvigorated a newsletter that's I think official with Jonesboro.
Yes,
and
yes.
The plan is to disseminate that newsletter monthly.
Yes.
How was that process, and why did that process stop at first?
I'm not sure why it stopped. I can say that when I purchased my home, before I knew who the mayor was at that time, years ago, and the city manager, before I even knew who the form of government was, I met the City of Jonesboro newsletter. It came into my mailbox, and it stated, to the resident who lived here. And when I read it, I felt such a closeness with the residents, the businesses, and the City of Jonesboro, because I was like, wow, I had never been in a city where I actually receive a newsletter. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Welcome to the city, and giving you updates, and it's a resource tool as well.
Exactly. And it was just like, okay, this is so-and-so's birthday, or so-and-so has passed, or it just made me gain a closer relationship to the city, and I hadn't even met no one at the city center, at the office yet. So I remember looking forward to the monthly newsletter. I remember sitting on the porch with my coffee, and when it came, I didn't read it right away. I waited until the morning time, which is my favorite part of the day. I waited until I moved.
It's a whole process. It's a cultural thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then it became a routine, a ritual. So when it stopped, I was just like, wait. That hurt me a little bit. Not only that, but when I was campaigning, I realized that it hurt my neighbors too. And I made a promise to them that, hey, I will bring this newsletter back. So I can't tell you why it stopped, because I wasn't part of that process, but I was committed to making sure we brought it back. And I remember I wasn't on council then, but one of my council members now, Councilman Dixon did bring it back. And we only saw a month of that, and then it went away again, which lets me know that it's possible that there wasn't support there. There might have been a cost there or something. So I wanted to make sure that we had a planning in place. What I knew was the previous administration was able to do it. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. Let's figure out how they did it. And then if we need to make some changes, then we can do that and then re-implement that. So it was important for me to work with our current government body to figure out, how can we bring this back? Because it is possible. The question is it a priority? And our budget, one of the things that I see is when we create our budgets, the budget is a reflection of what our priorities are. So I also made sure that we had money in the budget to support the newsletter for that budget year. So it's a very strategic process. So I knew that I was committed to bringing it back, and I wanted to make sure that we allocated as a team money to support that, to make sure that they received it. So I'm so excited because the City of Jonesboro staff has been working extremely hard. We're putting it together again, and from my understanding, it's going to be in people's mailboxes next month in May.
That's what's up. Yeah. I love it. So from a business standpoint, how can active participation from residents lead to a better return on investment for the city's future?
I think that's an excellent question. One of the things that I did during the campaign and that I'm going to do again, and I continue to do, I stress local. There is a disconnect though with that because oftentimes residents don't know the businesses that are here. And right now, as a whole, we do not have a portal. The city of Jonesboro does not have a portal where people are able to go to do a search on, hey, before they shop outside of the city limits, what's here in our backyard? I mean, we have like the signage and we have different business names, but oftentimes a business name doesn't necessarily attribute to the services that they offer, you know? So that's something that I'll be working with our economic development and our city manager and our mayor council to implement in the next year or so. I'm looking forward to that. But most importantly, what I try to do on a personal note is making sure that I do shout out those businesses. Or if I'm for example, I had breakfast yesterday with a friend at Magnolia House and Garden who they open up for breakfast several times a week. And while I'm there, I make sure I take pictures and I let people know, hey, if you need breakfast or you're stopping through or you're coming through the city, stop here. Or makeup or legal advice. You know, we have so many different amazing businesses, and some of them, they have their own brick and mortar, but some of them are office suites within, so they're not necessarily advertised on the front end. You have to have a knowledge to know that they're there, or do a search. If you do a Google search, then you'll be able to find them. But Jonesboro as a whole, you know, we all, whether you're incorporated or unincorporated, we share the same zip code. So oftentimes people don't know that these businesses are within the city limits. So residents, one of the things that I'm doing in the Jonesboro Bridge is doing a business spotlight where I'm spotlighting 3 businesses a month, and they're not gonna be the same businesses. So, and making sure that they have an opportunity to advertise for free in the newsletter and say, hey, what do you do? Where are you? What are your office hours? So that residents know. And anytime I put that out there, I always get a comment that says, man, I didn't know that was right in our backyard. And that's the point, to be able to answer that. Yeah. Like, listen, we need you guys to shop local, because what happens is when the businesses thrive, that takes the pressure off of the residents with their property taxes.
It is.
I believe that should be a shared responsibility because we're all invested. Property, the taxes, and making sure that the city functions should not only reside on the back of property owners. It should be a shared responsibility, a shared cost.
Because everybody's trash and everything gets picked up as well. So it's not like they're going around just picking up residents' trash without picking up, business.
I totally agree.
Businesses. Okay, just make it shared. You enjoying yourself?
I am. I had a little bit of anxiety, but again, I saw your interview style and I was just like, okay, Yeah.
Like I said, this is
like a conversation.
Exactly. It's just recorded. I'll put it out for people to consume. So that's all it is.
Yeah.
So looking through the entrepreneurial lens, right? With your background in real estate and interior architecture, which, by the way, did you design most of this?
I designed all of it.
Okay, first of all, you did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
I could tell when I walked in, I was like, oh, yeah. You have an eye for like putting things where they need to be.
Thank you.
And just the scope of diversity as well. It's like I get a modern feel, but with like rustic appeal. I don't know if those are the right words I should be using, but that's what it feels like though, and I love it.
I love mixing old and with the new.
I love that.
Yeah.
So with that background, how do you view the city's budget and development differently than a career politician?
That's an excellent question. Sometimes they align, sometimes it doesn't. Understanding where we are as a city first financially, what are our debts, what are our, where we're making profit. As I stated earlier, a budget is a form of what our priorities are. And the priorities are what we need as a city, what we need to function on a regular basis. That includes staff. that includes supplies, that includes services, most importantly. Definitely different as an entrepreneur. It looks different because as an entrepreneur, I'm only concerned about in-house, and then the services are the cost is coming in. I provide, it's supply and demand. I provide a product, I sell it, I make a profit, I take those profits and I grow it. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to the city, it's a little differently. You know, it's totally different. Understand? I remember going to class, newly elected training and understanding the city's budget and how is that broken down, and that's the first thing the instructor said. Take everything you know about finance out and start over, because it is completely different.
Well, the fiscal year alone is different.
The fiscal, exactly.
It goes from July to June. Most municipalities work on from federal, they do October to September. Nobody has a January to December. So that's business.
And then everything goes into a general fund.
Exactly.
Yeah, everything goes.
Stuff has to get allocated. And then it has to be unallocated if it's not spent. And, depending on charters and stuff like that, sometimes you can allocate funds from one category to the next as long as it stays within the department. And then when it goes out of the department, then, that's when city council has to get involved most of the time. And a lot of municipalities, that, as you can tell,
absolutely.
doing this a lot.
Not only that, but in the private sector, you are celebrated when you save money.
Yes.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, okay, you didn't utilize all of your budget. Yay. In the government sector, if you don't lose it, you use it. If you don't use it, you lose it. Right. And then next year, that same amount is not allocated to you. You will get less.
I'm so glad you said that, because that's something that I've told people a lot when it comes to government spending. Yeah, the only way to really increase your budget is to increase your spending.
It's to increase your spending, and that's not necessarily good all the time. You know what I mean? Because you're kind of forced to, because you don't want less, right?
You don't want less, but I'm like, there's no business, principles with the government, because in the private sector over here, it's just different. You save money, and then, you decide what you want to grow on based off of, trends and stuff like that, or what can become substantial over the course of time, and then, if you dominate the market share. But then with government, I'm like you said, the priority changes based off of the people, based off population, even with population expansions and stuff. So you have more residents coming in. So if you had more residents who were older in age and needed those assistance, and therefore services for those individuals would need to be allocated in those funds. So
and that's a great
changes,
point.
So it's like
it is.
But again, I think if people get more in the process, and that's why I like doing conversations like this, because it opens up the minds and getting people to realize, okay, a lot of people haven't even read budget reports. I've been looking at a lot of them. Some of them are, very lengthy, and then, other ones, depending on the bigger the municipality, the bigger the budget.
Exactly, yeah.
The smaller the budget, but it's still big enough to where even, because I think y'all's is around 8 million.
About 8 million.
And it was 4 years ago, it was 4 million or something like that.
Which lets you know the population has grown.
Exactly.
Yep.
But that's still 8 million, though. When you look at that, that's a small business.
You're right, it is.
And it has all these components to make that 8 million go. Most people, what I'm saying, I don't know if they can fathom what 8 million looks like, even though it's a small city. It's still big.
It is, yeah, 1,000%. It's still big. You have different age groups, age bracket. Our city is changing on a regular basis. What we needed 5 years ago is not what we need now, and that's kind of hard too, because what we allocate for the budget this year, this year we're going to start working for the budget next year, and sometimes there is a delay and disconnect between getting the information that we need so that we can set the accurate budget.
Yes, which I think everybody who do this type of work, I mean, ideally, you know what I'm saying, the better the information, the more information you have at one time, the better the picture looks. We're talking about money and budgets and stuff like that, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the transparency and the forensic audit that you've been very vocal about with the 45,000. Why was it important to break this down for the community via your newsletter, the Jonesboro Bridge?
Yeah, I wanted, again, like what we said earlier, right? Understanding government budget and a private sector's budget, and even your own personal residence, your own personal budget that you set for yourself is completely different. I think what we have to remember is, how did we get to the forensic audit in the first place, right? What is a forensic audit? Is that something that's part of the day-to-day for a city? And is that something that is warranted, or, so I kind of want to talk about how we arrived there from the beginning. So a forensic audit is a, for lack of better words, is a analysis, a detailed analysis of how the money is being spent. And depending on what the scope of work is, with the firm who is analyzing those funds will depend on what's included in the forensic audit. It's very different than when you're auditing your books for the year and you have to submit that to the state. Goes a little bit more into depth. It researches policy and procedure. It researches, how we arrive at certain places, or what decisions were made when the money is being spent, or who were involved in making those decisions. So I think that with this current forensic audit, this is something that I inherited. I came into place. My predecessors put this in place because during that time frame of that government body, they have had 4 or 5 different finance directors.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in fact, when I came into office, before I even took office, our finance director that we had gave in their resignation. So, and then I remember the very first act that we did as new council members was hire a finance, not even a finance director, but a financing firm, because they're an independent contractor. So technically we don't even have a finance director in-house. We have a company that is assisting us right now, third party that is doing, helping us to, with our finances now, which I greatly appreciate. So that coupled with, we had our auditing firm dropped us in the midst of that, those previous years. It was just we didn't have stability in the city's finances and how it was being reported. And then that coupled with, I believe, from what I saw in council meetings and from what I sat through myself during the council meetings at the time as a resident, information was not being made available. And when you have different hands in our finances, or you don't have stability, or you have different, like this person is here today, gone tomorrow, and then there's a void, their reporting stops. Reporting stop going out to the members because there is no one there to do that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there was a chain of events that happened that led to calling for a forensic audit, because forensic audit is extremely expensive. It's not something that you call in lightly. There has to be a chain of events that happens to even arrive at a place of forensic audit. Now, once you get to a place of forensic audit, there's a whole list of preparing for one. It's a whole nother ball game. You have to bring them in. They have to understand why they're here, and then create the scope of work for you and say, okay, this is what we're going to look into. And once they look into that, they come back with the findings, and then if you so choose, you can also they'll give you recommendations on what can be done for us not to get to that place again, or they evaluate our processes and make recommendations on whether or not they need to be changed. Sometimes forensic audits come back with nothing. It's not, when you do a forensic audit, you're not necessarily looking for wrongdoing. What you're doing is evaluating the policies and procedures that are in place.
Make sure the process is efficient.
Exactly.
Keep flowing.
Exactly. Or whether or not they were circumvented, right? Yeah. So it reveals holes in the process, and it helps us to strengthen that. So for me, I honestly welcome a forensic audit. Every now and then, even if your books are squeaky clean, oftentimes you shouldn't even have the same person doing your audits. Like if they've done it, I think that in my personal opinion, you should have maybe an auditing firm with no longer than 5 years doing your audits.
Yeah.
Because what happens is they get so used to the process that you need another set of pair of eyes to look at it to make sure that it's not the same thing. It's not redundant. It's, if they're making a mistake because they know your book so well, they may make the same mistake every time. Yeah, so having another pair of eyes look at it, I think is so efficient, and that's something that should be in place regardless. But going back to the forensic audit, we have to remember why we arrived at the forensic audit. Now that we're at now what I'm getting ready to talk about next is everything that has already been made public. And recently, I just put an article out. What is executive session? At our last council meeting last week, the forensic audit has now became where it's executive session. Personally, I disagree with that because this whole time we've been having it out in the open, and it should be. However, I understand why sometimes it does need to go into executive session because it goes into executive session for 3 reasons. You can go into executive session for personnel matter, for real estate matter, or legal matter. And in this particular case, it's a legal matter. So what I can say to that is, we have a forensic audit. It was so important for me to break down the process of what has happened thus far, because we have been talking about a forensic audit. Now, this is something that I inherited. I had to do the research to make sure that I understood where we were and what has happened, right? And then we've talked about it for so long that information get lost in the process. And people are not aware. They didn't see the contract. They don't know what's in the contract. They can do an open records request to get their hands on a contract, but that's what they elected us for, elected officials, to be able to get that information out to them and keep them informed, not necessarily with the details, but just a general information. Hey, this is what's happening. Highlights, exactly. In case you missed the meeting, this is what's happening. This is where we are. And this is, as a collective body, this is the decision, or this is the direction that we're going into. And that gives now the constituents an opportunity to say, hey, I want to know more information. Great, come to the meeting, ask your questions. We have public comment. Feel free to ask, because transparency is a part of this process. It should be a part of this process. So we're at phase 4, where now the report is finally done, ready. There is a discrepancy with cost, and that's what we're trying to figure out now.
But I'm like, it's not something hard to figure out. It's just cost. To me, at this point, it's just business. That's what it looks like. Business is business.
Business is business.
So that'll get handled, and then summaries will be dispersed, and everybody will see, like you said, the highlights and all that.
Exactly.
I did want to touch on just the Jonesboro Bridge, as far as just the resources you have to put into it, the time and dedication. I'm like, you're doing that yourself.
I am.
Is it taxing to you, or do you see the benefit of it? Like, how do you view that from both perspectives?
Perspectives.
Perspectives.
That's a great question. Is there a financial cost to it? Absolutely. There is definitely a financial cost. I'm committed. You know what I mean? I'm willing to take on that financial cost, because one of the things, or one of the problems that I want to solve in our community is communication between government and residents. And as a candidate, when I ran and knocked on the doors, that conversation, or that lack of transparency, was part of that conversation, that part of that 30-45-minute conversation, where residents felt like they had no idea what was going on, or if they did know what was going on, they heard it from a person, and that viewpoint was very skewed. It wasn't the entire picture.
Data and all
exactly.
that. And what really is transpiring is an interpretation of what's happening.
Exactly. So one of the things that I want to make very clear is that the Jonesboro Bridge is not my newsletter, but it's for us by us. You know, I wanted a platform where residents could voice in a very respectful manner, of course, or and a platform where I'm able to get information out there and it's not necessarily controlled. You know, I believe that transparency shouldn't be controlled. My job is to get the information out there without opinion.
Yeah.
And I wanted to create a platform where I'm laying out the facts. I'm laying out what has happened. I'm not necessarily giving an opinion to it, although I may have an opinion to it. But I believe that everyone needs to arrive at their own opinion based on the facts that has been laid out to them. And so that's why. Yes.
I like to say that my interpretation of you are that you are a disruptor. Not in a bad way, right? Not in a bad way. So I don't want you to like.
No, I know.
But you like to disrupt stuff, and I think that's a compliment.
Thank you.
Because I do things like that as well. But it's not necessarily, or what's been your experience now that you've been doing this. It's like now April. You're 4 months into your job. You do things more than what your average councilwoman or councilman would do that I've seen from politicians recently within the last 3-4 years.
Really? That's a compliment. Thank you.
You do.
Yeah.
Because you go out of your way to inform people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you create vehicles and platforms to do that, and you're vocal. I've seen politicians who shy away from social media. They don't have newsletters that they're dispersing. They're not really putting information out there to settle the minds of the constituents. They're just letting the constituents go through, their, feelings about how government is. They just sit back and, show up at their meetings, vote, and, of course, do their committee meetings and stuff like that. But I doubt they're very involved because you can tell by their mannerisms and stuff like that. With that being said, since you're going against the norm and being a disruptor, how has that been for you to experience the feedback that you get, whether it's good, bad, or ugly? How has that been for you, just like from a mental standpoint, just personally? Did you imagine that it would come to stuff like this?
Not at all. I just want to be a councilwoman that gets on the dais, that, I'm like helping businesses out. I had no idea that it would, things just kind of take a form of its own. I had no idea, depending on what's being presented or decisions or direction, as a councilwoman, the people voted me in to be able to inform them, number one, and make decisions on their behalf after I have heard from them. So I'm echoing their needs and what they need. In order for them to even able to understand what their needs are, they have to.
Pretty. Oh my goodness, I love the brown.
I guess he woke up from his nap. Meet Graham, you all. I don't know if you can see him, but my dog just came through. Graham is pretty popular online too. Yeah. Really? But to answer your question, I had no idea it would be like this. The feedback that I have been getting online is super positive. Not everybody's in agreement, right? Because one of the, and you're right, I am a disruptor. I didn't realize that I have to evaluate because I have to make sure that I'm taking the right approach sometimes. And my approach sometimes is not going to be the most popular, right? Especially if, unfortunately, it doesn't highlight. Nothing is beautiful all the time. Exactly. One thing I want to make very clear, the city of Jonesboro is extremely beautiful. I love this city. I fight for this city. We're not perfect. You know what I mean? And the policies and procedures of something that we have in place sometimes, or the lack thereof, in my case, it's the lack thereof transparency is what I'm bringing forth, because decisions are being made, but the residents and the business owners do not have the entire facts, or opinions are being formed and they don't have the entire facts. And my job is not to form an opinion for you. My job is to give you the information so that you're aware of what's happening, so that you know the right questions to ask, or you know what we need. You know, you're able to voice what your needs are. In order for you to voice what your needs are, you have to understand what's already happened, what has happened, or you have to understand what's already taken place. You know, so
like you have to see the forest
from the trees. Exactly. And oftentimes the narrative that is being put out there is again, it's not the entirety of it, and I don't want to just put one narrative out there. So the feedback has been super supportive. I have people that are sharing my information. They're sharing, speaking up for the voiceless. There are people that are afraid. They may be thinking it, but they won't say it.
So you were talking about, expressing and disseminating information, and how some people are voiceless or feel like they don't want to say it in public. But I love the fact that, they'll share it. But I love the fact that you're creating a safe space.
Yes, absolutely.
For those.
Yes.
Because I've done it before as well as disruptor. We give the facts about stuff, and it helps other people to be at ease with expressing how they feel as well.
Yeah, you know what? That is a very good point. It's almost like giving someone permission to say, "Hey, it is okay. It is okay." And sometimes they need that. Not only that, but unfortunately, our environment too. If I have to be honest, because I do definitely have to be honest, is that it has been so. How should I say that? It has been motivated by race too. There has been the reason why I created, one of the reasons of many that I created the Jonesboro Bridge was to bridge the gap between culture, government, residents, neighbors, like just wherever there is a gap, we need to bridge it. I can't necessarily bridge it on my own. It takes a community to bridge that gap. Oftentimes, when information is being out there, depending on who's putting the information out there, again, there's a storyline, there is a framing around it, and that framing is not necessarily the entire picture. And that's what I came across when I was seeking information. I wanted to know more. I was only hearing one side of it, and I was chastised, for lack of better words, for going and wanting to understand the entire picture instead of that,
That's what smart people do, though.
Yeah. What I'm saying? Exactly. Yeah, so it's just like, okay, all the information.
So you can make
yes.
a more informed decision.
Yes, and I'm an information seeker, so I wanted to talk to different people and get different perspective and understand, okay, you have two people that were in the same event, but both of them have a different perspective of what happened, and understanding everyone's perspective then helps me to say, okay, it helps me to understand, okay, was there misunderstanding, or okay, they didn't hear this, or okay, this information was said but that wasn't told, whatever the necessities are. So I think that people in the past have tried to put information out there, but because of framing and because of race, because of gender, or because of, it was almost like it was almost like a smoke screen of if I can draw your eyes away from and reframe it, then you won't see what the original conversation is really about. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And you have people that are masters at this, and what is a word for that? Is that manipulation? Is that, they got
a lot of different
there's a lot of different words for that, I'm not going to say what the word is. Exactly. There's all sorts of stuff. And for me, I'm like, okay, well, that's not fair, because it's like, then I'll get upset, like personally, because I'm like, okay, well, if I knew this, then maybe my decisions would have been different. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's the part where it's just like, okay, that's not fair for you to take that decision away from me. Allow me to trust me enough to give me the entire, and for all of it, and for me to make my own decision. And I think that that's something that happened to me, and I'm like, okay, I don't want residents experiencing that. I oftentimes look at other candidates, I look at other leaders, who who I am today is definitely I've seen leaders in my own community in Clayton County that I'm extremely proud of, and I take pages out of their book as well, because some of our leaders are also vocal. They're honest. They care about the budget. They care about transparency, and those are the people that I look to as well, because while I'm managing and helping to manage the city, we do have a county that is over us and representing us as a whole. You know what I mean? So I do have a commissioner. While I'm a council member, I still do have a commissioner over my district, you know? And there's other commissioners on other, and I watch them as well. I watch to see how they respond. I watch their character. I watch to see what they say. And some of them I definitely admire, because like me, they want transparency for their districts, for for us, for their people. Yeah.
With the particular role that you've been elected to, is it 4 years?
It's 4-year term.
And then do y'all have term limits?
Y'all
don't? Oh, wow.
Yep.
So someone could basically just keep getting reelected. So
absolutely.
This is your first, you're doing your first year. What strides do you want to accomplish about you get to, year 2, 3, or 4?
Oh man, that's a great question. I have several stages to the plan, right? The first thing, or the first stage for me, was opening lines of communication. And I believe that I'm doing that. Bringing our City of Jonesboro newsletter back, creating a newsletter from me, one that is less controlled and less filtered, full of transparency. And they'll get a newsletter from me too, quarterly, or once, I haven't decided yet, but they'll actually get a physical form of newsletter, not just the electronic form of newsletter. I also want to see economic development happening. I'm not saying that that's not happening now, but I do feel like, from what I've seen thus far, we do have a growth problem. We have more people wanting to come here, living here, which I'm extremely proud of, but we don't have enough services for them. Nor do I feel like we have enough staff for them too, because we do have a staffing, we have to look at staffing concerns as well. When to hire more staff, right? Because if we have more people, that's going to require more staff to be able to take care of the people that are in our residence. So those are the things that I am working with my counterparts on, evaluating and putting processes in place to make sure that we're keeping up with the demands of the residents. Business owners, having businesses come here, want to come here, want to do business here. One of the things that I have heard was, businesses sometimes have a hard time doing business in the City of Jonesboro. Part of that process is they may not understand the process. So being transparent with the process as well, and creating a platform where people are able to go online to get that information, so that that process to do business with the City of Jonesboro is just a little easier. If I'm being completely transparent with you, when it took about 10 months for me to go ahead and get this process of my house approved with the City of Jonesboro. That was another thing. I had no desire to run. I was trying to open for business. And that was a very difficult process. And I'm a professional, and that was hard for me. So I can only imagine the people who are not professionals, what they had to go through. And that is nothing on the staff that we have currently, because they're doing an amazing work. I think that they have also identified, and they're putting process in place to make it a lot easier for outsiders to come in and do business with the City of Jonesboro.
Does the city have the capacity to extend its city limits to? Because more people come to the city the bigger it is. You can't just stack everybody up on top like it's New York.
Right.
Most of the things is to expand city limits or whatever. Does Jonesboro have the capacity to be able to expand city limits?
I believe we do. I don't know if the residents want that necessarily, though. That's the thing, right? Because we may want to do that as a governing body, but the question is whether or not the residents wants to do it. Because one of the things that I heard over and over again on the campaign trail was, we're a small town, we want to keep it that way. That's why I created I had conversations on my front porch, I was able to identify quickly that the current residents want to keep, our area, for lack of a better words. So I implemented small time or small feel like, back in the day, you used to have front porch conversations. You used to go to your neighbor's house and be able to have a conversation on your front porch.
Exactly.
So I wanted to bring that back, and I introduced that during my campaign because I wanted people to feel comfortable coming to speak with me, coming to speak with a candidate or now an elected official. And I'm bringing that back in May where I'm front porch policies, having a tea, having a coffee, having a treats, and we're just talking, and having casual conversation, and hoping to also teach and help people to understand the processes, right? Because zoning is not something that you get up and talk about at 8 o'clock in the morning.
But I could only imagine, like, the way those conversations have to go because, like we said, if more people are coming and wanting to move to a city, naturally it's going to grow.
It's going to grow.
You can't help but have to supply the demand for the services.
Exactly.
So you can't always just stay small.
Yeah, you cannot stay
and
small.
Quaint
yes.
and stuff.
Yeah.
It has to grow in order.
Yeah.
Or you miss out.
Yeah. Teaching that to the residents is very important. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think that residents, one of the things that I found out was that they just want to know. Like if an action is taken, it's okay. Just let me know why that action had to be taken. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the why part, I think, is what's been missing out of the equation.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's like, okay, for example, if we need to hire an outside garbage company, because right now we have one inside. Well, tell me why we need to do that. Don't just do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially as I stated, we're growing in number of population. So the question is, do we increase our staff in that department? Anything that we do is going to be passed on to us as residents. How do we approach that? What is the best way to approach that to minimize that cost? And let's have an open conversation about it.
Do you see yourself continuing to be involved in politics at an elected official capacity in the future once you serve term? Or
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's not. If I'm being honest with you, that answer changes daily.
Okay. I get it, because you have a lot that you're inundated with on the regular. So I can only imagine the phone calls. It's always everybody's bringing attention to something, and everybody's needing their net at that particular time. Yeah. And then you have to take that into consideration with whether the needs of the many. But you don't want to leave out the few. Exactly. So it's like, exactly. It goes back and forth. You mentioned the youth and the grandma philosophy, so I'm tying these both in. You champion for the city of Jonesboro Youth Council by teaching business of government to the next generation as a priority for your first term. Then also talk about that it takes a grandma to make things right. Why are those things important to you? Because you're picking two ends of the spectrum. You're talking about the youth and the older, or I like to call them seasoned. Why are those two things important?
It bridges the gap. Yeah, it bridges the gap. One of the things that Jonesboro is enriched of is history. And it was very important for me to understand the history. People sometimes want to, I understand changing the history. But you have to know the history, because if you're not careful, the history is bound to repeat itself. So when you try to erase the history, you also erase, or you potentially put into place where it can repeat itself if we're not careful. Empowering the youth, it's important that they understand the history, the other side of it, right? Because so that they don't make some of the same mistakes that we've made. And so that they can evaluate and introduce new ideas and because what their needs are and what our needs are, or even, someone a little bit older than me, are a little different. I am essentially creating, or when I set policies, when me and our governing body set policies, we're not just thinking about right now, but for me specifically, I intentionally say, how does this affect my children
Mm-hmm.
or the future generation
Mm-hmm.
or the council member that comes after me? Because I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going to always be a council member. I can be a council member for 10 years, but there's going to be, this house, for example, that we're sitting in is over 100 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of history
Mm-hmm.
here, and they made decisions based on what they needed at the time. But I also believe that some of the decisions they made was, okay, so when somebody else inherits this, then they'll have this as well. And that's what I did. What I did was I took it and I built upon it, right? And created and moved it forward into the next generation because we lived off of one bathroom, But I know somebody else who might want to buy the house may need more than one bathroom. So I intentionally implemented more than one bathroom in this particular restructure this time around. Same thing with the youth, right? Okay, what their needs are when I make decisions, or just bridging that gap from the wisdom, right? Because that's what it is wisdom. Taking that wisdom, taking innovation, and then pivoting and moving forward. Not making the same mistakes that we made, back in the day. And then not only that, it's empowering them too. It's giving them a voice. It's empowering them.
Yeah.
And especially with the business aspect, they are, we have a group of Jonesboro Youth City Government, a group of talented youth that at that age, I wasn't trying to learn government, but the fact that they're engaged, they're putting resolutions and policies. I go to their meetings and I hear them debate, and I am so proud of their leader, Councilman Alfred Dixon, who gives them a safe platform to debate. And then after that debate is over, they're laughing. Somebody is telling a joke, and I'm like, I wish we had that at our council meetings. Because our council meetings can get kind of heated sometimes.
The egos of adults and stuff like that.
Exactly. And I'm like, man, we can take a page out of their book. You know what I'm saying?
I definitely understand.
Yeah. So marrying that, and then the business of it. A well-informed person knows all sides, and I'm invested in making sure that the youth understands all sides, so that when they move forward or they create or they reinvent or restructure, reshape, they're doing it with all the information. Yeah.
Definitely get that. Being a councilwoman, it's on paper, payroll, whatever. It's a part-time gig. But what's required of it seems like it's more of a full-time service, right?
It's full-time with overtime.
Yeah. How are you able to balance that? Because I can imagine it would be extremely hard if you had like a traditional 9-to-5 and wanted to serve. Do council people need to be like you said, an entrepreneur and to be able to serve, or how can someone fulfill that role of council, but then also still, do their 9-to-5?
That's a great question. I think that's a great question. I don't think that, because as a council member, we make, I think, less than $10,000 a year. I mean, it's not, I am fortunate. That's not everybody's testimony. I've made some good financial decisions, prior to becoming councilwoman. I do have my own business. I have structured my life in a way where before I even took this on, I wanted to make sure that I was able to commit to it. And again, I didn't even know that this is something that I would be doing. I just knew from a personal standpoint, I did the hamster wheel. I did the 9-to-5. And I made sure that I worked very hard over the years to structure my life where now that I'm in my 40s, I would take on projects or do things that I want to do that helps elevate my thinking, or very intentional, very, very intentional. And that's not necessarily everybody's, platform, because we do have council members that do work 9-to-5. So, and we have to take that into consideration. And sometimes, depending on the season, my workload is a little bit more in this season than it is in other seasons. So some seasons I'm not always available, but I'm definitely committed, and I think that's all of us at this point. Do you have to, have a lot of money, or do you have to be at a certain status? Absolutely not. Anyone that I think what you have to have is stamina. You have to have courage. You know, you have to exhibit certain behaviors to be a council person or just to be a leader, and you know you have to also have tough skin because you're not gonna. Yeah. I can't. One thing that I've realized very quickly, I cannot please everyone, nor am I trying to please everyone. Exactly. If there's a specific topic or issue or problem that needs spoken to or resolved, I will focus on that. You know what I mean? And if there's a decision that needs to be made, I will reach out to the community. There's many times where I've reached out to the community and said, hey, this is what's happening. I need to know what you all want me to do. And I've asked it just like that. Yeah. Because what I want to do and what the community want to do may be two different things. I'm not here to represent myself. I'm here to represent them. So it's like, hey, but sometimes the community is left out of that conversation. You know what I mean? And I'm bringing them back into that conversation. Yeah.
I definitely love it. Well, this has been a fantastic talk with you.
Thank you.
I loved it. Learned even more stuff than I thought I was going to learn. So you did a really, really good job.
Thank you.
Things.
Yeah.
But let everybody know if they have inquiries, they want to, you know, follow the newsletter, they want to, you know, email you with correspondence of the concerns and things of that nature. How should they get involved?
Well, definitely look me up on the City of Jonesboro government page. All of my contact information is there, my email address, as well as my phone number. So if you have any questions or concern, especially about the City of Jonesboro, please feel free to look that up. You can definitely follow me as well on social media, all platforms, Councilwoman Santia Fox. Thank you for taking the time out to just listen to me. I am, at the end of the day, a woman with a voice.
Hey, you're using it fantastic. I love it. So as always, the information will pop up on the screen for y'all. Y'all keep supporting it and also continue to share the platform, support it, Bankedoutt Ballot.